Welcome, guys. Welcome to our core membership guest speaker event for December. Today's guest is Kathryn, and she's here to talk to us all about sex and relationships, which is a big topic, and we're all a bit like, not sure if we want to talk about it, but we need to. So we're doing that today. Personally, I find it really interesting, and I shared a little bit about this today on my Instagram, and I really want to move towards removing that stigma if we can around sex and, anything, all of these kinds of topics. And that's what core membership is really about, looking at all of the areas of your life, not just your health or your diet or your exercise, like very holistic approach. So when I found Kathryn, I got really excited and, we connected straight away. It was like, I feel like it was fate for sure. And yeah, I'm just really excited to have her here to share more about this. And I might just jump straight into it and you can kind of tell us about yourself. And yeah, but thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've been very excited about this. We planned this about a month ago, or a bit longer actually.
Yes.
It's been in the works for a while.
Yes, I've been so excited about it as well. But yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about you and just maybe a brief history, where you're from, where you're living, all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. So my name's Kathryn. My business name is Kathryn Halcyon, and there is a really nice story behind that. We'll maybe go into that later. I'm living in Sydney, Australia, and I'm trained in therapy, so I'm a counsellor, and I've got a bachelor in counselling, and I'm pursuing a master's in sexology. So I'm kind of a sex therapist, but one day I'll be a sexologist. So that's really cool. And yeah, in terms of what I actually do, I offer something that's more like coaching and guidance for my clients. And I've also got a podcast, a book, a shop, there's heaps of stuff that I do. But my favorite part is definitely the conversations that I have with people, not even just in a client perspective, like collaborations, these kinds of meetings, yeah, and client sessions as well. So there's lots going on and I love it. Love what I do.
Cool. Yes, you do have a lot going on, like your podcast, your shop, all of your awesome pleasure ones. But let's go into a bit like, what do you like to do for fun and self-care? Because I feel like that's something that's really important that a lot of us need to do more of. So what do you like to do for
I'm not really organized about it. I have like a handful of things that I'll just go to, and depending on what I really feel called to use, I'll do it. And it changes throughout like the month with my hormones and just like life and the energy that I'm like really sitting in. But if I'm feeling quite active and I just need a break, I'll go for a hike. I've got a really beautiful walk that's just near my house. If I'm really angry, I'll go and scream in my car. And I know that's really like confronting for a lot of people, but I think we've got wild women in us. And I think it's really healthy to let that go sometimes. We don't have to be perfect. Like, I meditated and journaled today. Like, it can be ugly. Self-care can be ugly. So I do that. I paint. That really grounds me. I'm not good at it. I'm terrible at it actually, but I love it. So and I journal a lot. I've been journaling every day since I was like, I'm not even kidding, like 7, and I have all of the journals to prove that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I do. But yeah, a cold shower really helps me like get out of an anxious moment. Stuff like that.
That's interesting. I have heard of like the health benefits of it, cold shower as well, like jumping into the cold ocean and
yeah, it's like really good. His name is like Willem Hoff or whatever, and the benefits are like it improves your immunity and like just like all of these different blood and organ features, but mentally it's just incredible. Like you feel really refreshed and it like gives you a burst of energy. It's like having a coffee without the coffee.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I guess like we can go a little bit deeper. I feel like I've really lately rediscovered my passion for just storytelling, and then I feel like we can learn a lot from people's stories, their challenges, their dark, emotions, all of that stuff, and then the light, of course. Um, and we can relate and feel less alone. Um, so I'd love to invite you to just speak freely. Maybe you can tell us about the story behind your name. And
Yeah,
is that
absolutely.
okay?
Yeah. Let me just, you know what? It's gotten really humid here. So I'm just going to turn my car on. So I've got the aircon on.
Okay.
I hope it's on. And when I say car, I mean a Hilux Ute. It's like a massive truck. Everyone thinks that I drive like a really dainty car, but it's not at all. It's yeah, it's a big one. So my name, Halcyon, is the oh, sorry, God, so unprofessional of me. There's music playing. It's I'm just a glorious mess, everyone. Like, I don't do professional. I like it messy and raw. I got no time for that. It's 2020. Christmas is around the corner. So let me just be present with you. Okay, so the meaning behind my name, Halcyon. I was pregnant maybe 4 years ago now, and I really loved the name, and then the pregnancy didn't work out, and it was really horrible. I think every woman knows exactly what that feels like, and that name just sat with me, and I always named that fetus or baby Halcyon. And then what I learned from going through that really difficult time was so much about sex and female embodiment and sexual energy and just all these like things about pleasure and healing. And so when it came to creating my business, I didn't like my family name because it reminded me of my dad and my brother and like things that I'm proud of, but it's not got anything to do with my business. So to really encapsulate what I'd been through and my lessons and my wisdom, I decided to name my business Kathryn Halcyon, so my baby's name and me. And it's just got that extra meaning behind it, but that's the full story.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I had no idea. And I got like goosebumps all over me, and like my heart was like hurting. So I'm sorry that happened, but how beautiful, like your story. That's really, yeah. I feel like your name and your business, it is really personal. And for me, like I just realized too that I've moved away from my business name that I created all by myself, like on my own when I wanted to start my business. And now I'm like, I need to go back to that because that's me. Like that's, side note, but so
no, it's such an important thing. So I'm really like, I believe it really helps like capture your essence and like communicate who you are. It's so much more than a name. It's a whole like, who you are.
Yes. Yeah, I totally get that. So what got you interested in counselling, or was it something else?
No, I've always been interested in counselling. I often was told by like adults throughout my life, like you should really go down the therapy path. And like even when I was really young, because I was so like fascinated by like science and like specifically psychology, and I was very intuitive and like I guess I was just like a kind person. I think kind people get told like you should be a helping person. So I was always encouraged to do it, and actually started a career in interior design, which I'm still sort of in and quite successful at. But it just wasn't enough for me. I was missing that soul and that heart. So I became a therapist after a bit of psychology and then the Bachelor of Counselling, and that was like 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. And then so the masters in sexology, what's kind of involved in that? Like, do you get to do some like fun adventures or something?
The context of that particular course is public health, so it's focused on minimizing pandemic related, so that's really scientific, but it's got to do with global health rather than individual health. So it's quite, I kind of struggle with it sometimes. Like, while it's really interesting, and my particular expertise is in like pleasure and healing, we learn about AIDS and STDs and what pregnancy looks like all around the world, like all these really cool global things. And that is what it takes to be a sexologist. You can't just be an individual. You can't just study a person. You have to study cultures. And it's a lot of fun. And I do it online because it's over in Perth with Curtin University, actually. So that's where I do it, but it's all online.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really interesting though, isn't it? Like that, yeah, you kind of have to go and look at the bigger picture. But I listened to a podcast, and the lady was saying like part of her, I think it was her master's or something, and she was doing all these kind of experiments and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, that sounds,
Yes, that will be coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to pick like a thesis if I want to like write something, but I don't know if I want to do that part of the course, which would just be a graduate diploma. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right, so before we get into more specific stuff, I'm really interested too to kind of hear what you think about how we can remove the stigma of talking about sex.
Mm-hmm. Oh, such a broad question.
Yeah.
I think the first thing to acknowledge is that it will not be comfortable. Like, it's not meant to be. People are like hoping that one day I'll just wake up and be really empowered, and like my inner Beyonce will just like be like, fuck it, like I love sex and I don't care what you think. Like, that actually does not define like sexual empowerment and being comfortable and like no stigma. What defines it is just doing it anyway, despite your fear. So the vulnerability behind it. When people come to me like, I really wish that I didn't feel so much guilt about like wanting to have sex. And I'm like, you will feel guilty because you're putting yourself first. And that's usually a sign you're doing the right thing anyway. But it's got nothing to do with your comfort. That's irrelevant. Comfort, and it's just not on the same spectrum. And stigma will always be there, but it's about choosing that you deserve pleasure and to be selfish and changing your relationship with those words over the discomfort that's based on other people.
Yeah, okay. Cool. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So what do you think the biggest like missing link is then from like women specifically, or do you work with men as well, or mostly women?
Mostly women, only because I feel like even with statistics of just basic mental health, men are less likely to reach out for support and help, and you will usually get referrals from like a doctor or their wife or something. So my biggest clients are just women because they're so proactive about fixing and helping and doing, and whereas men are a little bit shy about being vulnerable and reaching out for help.
Yeah. So then is there a common sort of theme as to what people reach out for, or like what do you feel like the biggest missing link is there?
Is it for women?
Yeah, like what do you feel like they're mostly reaching out to you for? Is there a common theme, or is it very broad?
It's not broad, but it's not very specific either. The range of topics that I deal with tend to be like we've just spoken about. I'm looking for more empowerment and I just want to be like a sexier person. But generally it's like, we've just had a baby and my vagina is all torn up, and like, what do we do about it? Because we can't have sex, or like, overcoming some trauma, which is a really big one that you shouldn't really speak to anyone except a therapist about, like a qualified therapist. And another really common one is just healing in general. So like maybe not even trauma. People just come to me for like feminine guidance. Like, how do I work? How do I exist as like a feminine person and process everything that I go through each and every day in a really more feminine and aligned way? So actually it's quite a big variety. It's never like a specific thing that I see.
Cool. Yeah. That's good though. I feel like that's true in all areas. Like, yeah, we all have different struggles. We're all different people. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
So where's a good place to start? Do you feel, kind of exploring this more? Like, where do we start?
Yeah. I would actually, contrary to belief, like not pick up a book and not like go to a podcast or ask a friend. I'd actually learn to listen to yourself first. So often as women, we outsource our wisdom and intuition to other people, and we rely so much on other people's opinions to justify and to make sense of and exist in our own bodies, when really we need to be, the only empowered approach is to be fully owning your own intuition. And if you want to explore going deeper into sexuality, your health and well-being, etc., the first step to do it is listen to your own body and just see what's going on for you, and not borrow from other people ideas about what it should look like, but rather what works for me. Because I see a variety of people really loving their life and being very happy with a variety of different, like of traits. So that, people will be like, I only have sex like twice a year with my husband, but we're so happy. We're really happy. And it's like, great, amazing. That's your normal. So find your normal. And to do that, you have to listen to yourself and no one else.
I really love that advice, actually. Just listening to yourself is something I struggle with, which but yeah, it is so true that we outsource and we go to other people for the answers, and it's like the answers are all within. You just have to give yourself that time and space.
Exactly. Yeah.
The actual practice of just being mindful with your own thoughts.
Yeah. Which is difficult, actually. Like, we're not living in a world that encourages that and like encourages stillness. We don't listen. Yeah, we don't listen to ourselves, and that in itself is a skill. To like get quiet and like feel around your body for feelings and emotions, like that is difficult.
Yeah. So what about pleasure then? How can we experience more pleasure outside of sex even?
Yep. It's about romanticizing life, and it's about using the good china for every single dinner and the nice bed sheets, and it's about making every single dinner like candlelit, and it's about putting that little bit of effort in, because we treat ourselves like we don't matter, and then like we would never, I want people to self-date. So, if you were to treat yourself the same way that you would treat your partner, or a new partner even that you've just met, would you just like give them some takeout to watch with a TV and not talk to them or engage with them? Like, you'd probably put candles on and like play some music like Michael Bublé or something, I don't know, and like cook like your favorite dinner and eat it slowly and actually be there for it, enjoy the food. But so often we just like pop on Netflix and a meal that we, probably don't even like, and then we rush it because we feel guilty about eating as it is. And just like all of our relationships to pleasure is just like, it's messed up. People, I think, are just afraid of pleasure as much as they are of pain, because pleasure is so revealing and it shows so much of ourselves. Like, pleasure is a very powerful emotion and sensation, and it can be very confronting for people to accept receiving joy and love and pleasure from something. It's very confronting, and people treat it like pain, like, oh, that's too much, just want to numb out instead. Yeah.
I think I'm just processing all of this. Yeah, I'm really feeling like this is just, we're all in the right place right now. Like, we all needed to hear that, right? Everyone, yes. Yeah. I just got goosebumps. Okay, so I think let's go into like the pleasure ones then, because I feel like that's that part of actually experiencing more pleasure, other than it just being about orgasm, or, you know. So can you tell us a bit about them and why you know, design them and what they are and all that?
I mean, I didn't necessarily design them. It's a shape that, I mean, people have been making for a really long time, but no brands that I really align with, and they're not necessarily like eco-friendly. So I never really liked what was available. And so I ended up making my own because I was sick of that. But I've been using my collection for a real long time. And the reason, I mean, I guess like the way vibrators are used these days really is, it like concerns me. I feel like we're very, I mean, I've got heaps of blog posts about this, but I feel like we're quite addicted to the intensity, and it's usually just like on our clitoris and like getting off and falling asleep. And I always say this, but you would never you'd never let your partner treat you like that, hold a vibrator to your clitoris and make you fall asleep and not even hold you. Like, we're missing the self-love element in masturbation. And the toys that people use aren't like their only goal. They are robots. Their only goal is to get you off, and they don't understand like how to give you pleasure and let you experience it. Like, it's just about intensity. Even on like low settings, like, it's a direct rhythm and you can't stop it. It's like all or nothing. It's not intuitive, you know? So using at least your hands is like a step in the right direction to just feel into making love to yourself, rather than just like being drilled by something, which there's a time and place for, and there's no hate for me against like vibrators. I just think we should be really curious about the way that we use them. And then the crystal side of things, like, I'm not a huge crystal fan, which people will be quite surprised by. I like love them and I think they're beautiful, and I'm not like there's a science behind this. I just really love the crystals, and I think they're beautiful, and it makes the experience so much more pleasurable. And there are qualities behind the stones. If you're into that, that's great. They're definitely there for you. But yeah, I guess it just provides like a new way to self-love, and especially like the concept of de-armoring. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, you talked about it a little bit, but yeah, I'd like you to share that as well.
Yeah. De-armoring is like, so the way that our bodies work is when we go through anything slightly traumatic, we operate like our neurosystem just like fights, flights, and freezes. And the muscles in our bodies become tense. You know, you go to a masseuse and they're like, wow, you're really tense. So that actually happens in our vagina as well. It's a muscle network that we need to engage with and massage and soften, because the tissue actually can become quite like firm and hard, and that's the muscles underneath being really rigid. But you want to create like a soft and supple environment, similar to like when you're aroused, you know, just like wet and soft and warm. And that is like a really healthy vagina. Like, it's got healthy pH levels. Yeah, range of benefits for that. And the way that we can encourage that is through de-armoring, which is actually like methodically massaging your inner walls, and pressing into points of tension and releasing them. And it can be quite difficult to use your hands. Sometimes you need something else to use in that process. So the pleasure ones are really good for that.
Mm. Yeah, so that's the yoni tissue question I was asking you, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I learned about when I did the holistic pelvic care session.
Yeah. Yes.
And yeah, it was really interesting because I had no idea about any of that before. And when she'd say, like, you know, if you can feel a certain part that feels a little bit rough, or like, you know, I go past it and you're like, oh, that felt weird, or something came up there, then she would like go back there and that would be the place to kind of massage and see what came up with the feelings at the same time, which was really cool. And then it was like the masculine side and the feminine side, which do you have, like, can you tell us a bit more about that? Or
Yeah. So people often think like masculine and feminine is referring to like sex or gender, but it's got nothing to do with that. We all have various portions of that energy within us. It's just genderless like energy, and if that's still too difficult to understand, it's just giving and receiving. And we go through that pattern in literally everything. Name something, there is the two energies exist. It is nature. It's everywhere, and we have it within us as well. And that is ability to receive and be in the flow is like the feminine, and then the giving and the action is the masculine. Or you could call it yin and yang. Yeah, there's heaps of terms for it.
yeah, cool. I've been learning a lot more about that lately, and it seems to be something that people are talking about a lot more, so you guys have probably heard of it as well. Cool. Okay, so what do you think, what's like some things that we could be doing every day or every week, or I don't know how often, but you know, that that's going to allow us to like improve our sex life, make us feel more comfortable in the bedroom, or confident, sexy, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Well, it's a case by case scenario, because, you know, one thing could be very normal for somebody, but it could be completely different and new for another. So, I mean, I'll just go off some basic random exercises that you can do. But so in terms of just throughout the day, not necessarily sitting down and doing something, but just like while you're out and about, I always check in with my vagina and see how the muscles are, because you'll be surprised how tense and like tight you are. It's like, you know, with your shoulders, when you're like, for some reason, you're all hunched over at work because you're stressed. You're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was so like uptight. Like, that's the same with your vagina. So I do something where I basically like check in for my vagina, and I'm at the point now where I can feel the pulse in, like, I've become so good at like feeling like inside, not with your hands, just like feeling the actual tissue sitting there. I can feel the pulse, and really just checking in with that space of you and getting comfortable and treating it with no like what's the word, no taboo. Like, it's not different to checking in with like, how's my neck going? Like, it's just a part of your body, and not neglecting it and then expecting it to show up and dance for you when it's time for sex. Like, people are so like, yeah, they just abuse themselves. Basically, they dismiss the fact that they're a sexual person. They dismiss their vagina and they never even look at it, don't think about it. But then they're like, why can't I orgasm? And why do I not feel anything? It's a relationship. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's start there.
Yeah. Cool. And then what about like starting to maybe talk to our partners? You know, can you give us some kind of communication tips in that way?
Yep. Okay, so often in relationships there is like a giver and a listener, or a talker and a listener, or somebody like, I mean, if you're in a relationship that's quite healthy and happy, that'll actually be the normal format, and it's got nothing to do with genders, or but it is more often that the man is just not a massive talker and more of a listener. It just takes their time to process things, or whatever that looks like for you. But I would recommend that you get really familiar with how you guys communicate in the first place. So just develop a bit of awareness, like, oh hey, I personally am just noticing that I usually run through the at 5 p.m. I get through the front door and I'm just like offloading onto him, and he kind of shies away from me, or she kind of like gets overwhelmed and like needs to go process things, and it's just becoming aware of the dynamics first and foremost, and then from there try and make it more intuitive, so make it work for both of you. Like, so in this particular circumstance, when there's two different types of communication happening, it's always a good idea just to check in when a good time for them to speak is, and to give them lots of time to respond as well, because a lot of people, you might be saying something to someone and thinking you've already thought about it for like days before you've spoken to them, weeks, and then they're just hearing it for the first time. They need to process it and take it slow. So often, like, we bombard people, but we need to just take a step back and observe what's going on and being a little bit more intuitive about it. That shit saves marriages. It saves marriages, just going a bit slower. Seriously, it does. So learning to communicate in a slow way.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. My husband is the same, like, just, yeah, like, I'll offload all this stuff and then I'm like still talking. And yeah, and then he doesn't answer, and like I'm like, but, and he will even say to me like, I need to think about it, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, don't you just know the answer already? Like, yeah, so it's I think you're right about the awareness. Once you have that, it's a lot easier to communicate. You know how they work. It's like getting really curious about each other again.
Yeah.
Like you are in the beginning of a relationship. And yeah, asking some good quality questions as well. I feel like
like open questions. So
yeah.
instead of like, I want to do this, and like, we need to do this, and it just has to be this way. It's more like, I was wondering how would you feel if we tried this? Like, what do you think about that? Like, I want to do this. I'm just wondering, do you think it'll work? I feel it will work. What do you think? And just keeping things open rather than statements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and getting their kind of input.
Yeah, because you don't want to like bombard people. You want to make it equal and make sure they have an equal part in the relationship and conversation. But also, sorry, I just want to say that for a lot of, like, that doesn't mean that you're wrong or that you should be taking the back seat. Like, you are also very much 50% in the relationship, and you deserve to be listened to. So it's just about making it more effective. That's all.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what about too, like, when, because I feel like in my situation, my husband will kind of, in our relationship, ask for things like sexual things, and I have pushed back on that for a long time. Is there, yeah, I guess I wasn't open to even the conversation about it either. So I don't know if there's anything we can do about that, or is that pretty normal?
Is what normal about it though? What are you asking?
Do you find that a lot, like with the man is kind of asking for stuff and the woman doesn't feel comfortable, or no?
Actually, no, and I wouldn't say there's any research on it either.
Yeah.
That's very subjective. But also, like, not to go too far into just giving you a bit of guidance right now, but it doesn't matter what's normal either. We're like, and I understand, I do this all the time. I literally did it with my doctor today. But we all do this. Like, we're so desperate. I'm not saying you're desperate. I'm just like, we're looking for what's normal so that we know where we're at. But it really is just about, does this work for me? That is all that you need to ask. And so, like, a better question, instead of like what's normal, or more effective just for your self-compassion, is like, is this working for me? So yeah, that's just like an opportunity to try a new question for you.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, cool. So back to going back and forward here, but back to the wands. I also know that you you like to set intentions for them as well. So
Yeah.
you know, when I got mine was for welcoming a baby, and I feel like that's why I did the holistic pelvic session as well. And you know, going back to that sort of womb space, but is the intention, like, it can be anything?
Yeah, I mean, actually not many people request them. I think like 10%, 15% of my customers do. But they just like to know that somebody's like really thought of them and put a lot of like mental effort into, like, I guess just having someone think about you for a whole hour is really, it's a beautiful gift. Like, it's like a prayer, you know, someone's like, I prayed for you, if you're spiritual, like, I prayed for you. It's like, wow, like, thank you. It's that kind of, for me, it's that kind of tenacity. Like, it's very, it's a beautiful thing, I think.
And that was,
sorry?
I was just thinking it's a big difference between ordering something from lovehoney.com or whatever, you know, whereas buying something from you and actually you go through a whole like process of actually with that wand and setting the intention and the moon and all the things.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful, like you said.
Yes, I have a flat off my office. I have a flat roof. And before, like, I disinfect and like I do a serious, like, a steam disinfection with like oils and like antiseptic, I put them under the moon on the flat roof, full moon. So I'm not saying like crystals are like curative, but I do think that they hold certain energies. So I think it's like, it's just a beautiful process. You know, who wouldn't want that? It means, like, I put so much effort into every single one. And like, who wouldn't want that? I would want to use something like that if someone had done that for me. So that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah. And then too, I feel like, you know, perhaps some of us, because well, we're all in relationships, like all the ladies here, I feel like, you know, why is it important for us as well, even though we're in a relationship, to have a pleasure wand and use it?
Well, because it's got, like, you know, other than your relationship with your partner, you are a whole and complete system yourself. Like, it's not, your partner is like an accessory to you and your relationship, which, the whole thing about like you come first and stuff, like, it can be quite annoying for people who are actually in very loving and committed relationships, because they're like, but I love them so much. And it's like, I'm not saying that they don't come first, but you are also like just as equally as important, and you deserve that kind of love that they give you alone as well, by yourself. And it's a great opportunity to give yourself that whole practice, really. And yeah, like, it's just something special just for you. But I actually have a lot of people that use it in, like, with their partners. So a lot of people, like, their husband will use it on them for de-armoring or just pleasure. A really common one, this is a little bit erotic, so if there are any kids listening, watch out. But like, they'll put it anally while they're having sex with you. Like, it feels amazing. And actually, I have a few people that have told me they actually use it on their husbands. So that's a different topic. But, you know, it's an object that can be used by everyone. And yeah, they're just incredible. I don't know what it is about them. I was so, like, skeptical but now I'm obviously a massive fan. So
yeah, I'm
yeah,
really
great.
excited too for the curved one that you've got
Oh
coming.
yes,
I feel like
they're not out yet, but we'll see. It's just COVID and like delivery from overseas has not been good.
Yeah, but I feel like with those, it's almost like they're, for me, I feel like that's going to be the one for the de-armoring, for the massage, you know, because it has like the shape and you can kind of maneuver it more. And so, yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, they're my
So
favorite.
we also have put together for everybody here a 10% off link. So I'll pop that up in the forum so you guys get 10% off. But also, can we go back to your coaching and guidance as well, because that's also something that you guys have the opportunity to take, well, to work with Kathryn. So yeah, like we did speak about it earlier, but I guess you know, you're, I don't know what I'm saying. Like your coaching and guidance, like it can pretty much be for anybody, right? Like it's not, doesn't just have to be like you've got a sex question or like, you know.
Yeah, it's about everything. I have a lot of clients that are just working through anxiety at the moment, and the funny thing is like people come to me and like, I want to have better sex, and then we end up talking about like, how's your work life, how's your family life, all these things affect sex. They do. So sex is a byproduct of the way we live, and my work is a very clear evidence of that. Like I talk about everything.
Yeah, I felt that too, because like I feel like it's hard to just, well, not hard, but like for me, when I've tried to just be like, oh, I want to fix this area of my life, it's almost like you can't really just focus on one area because it trickles on into everything.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all or nothing.
Yeah. And it opens up, like I said in my post today, like I went to her for to help me, like, you know, fall pregnant, but it totally opened up this can of worms with like my relationships with my friends, my relationship with my mum, you know, feeling guilt in my relationship with my husband, wanting to experience more pleasure. Like all of these things came up from that session that I hadn't said out loud. I thought of them, I knew they were there, but I'd never said them out loud. And it was like, once I opened that up, it was like, yeah, just a whole journey trying to go down all those paths and heal all those. And then other things have popped up along the way. So I feel like that's, you know, what you'll get from therapy, I guess, as well.
Yes, absolutely. Like hit the nail on the head. It is a like all or nothing process. So yeah, like definitely. And I kind of coined my own approach for that reason. Like, I mean, I wanted to do just coaching, but so often you can't just like approach. Okay, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but like, I don't love how many sex coaches there are out there who have no formal qualifications. No one's equipped to have trauma-informed conversations, and everyone's got trauma. So like, you know, and you're having conversations with people, and I, you know, just coaching, which is very goals oriented. Like, how do we fix this? How do we make this better? Let's get some actions and goals. Is very harmful to somebody that's gone through something, and we've all gone through something. It's just never appropriate sexually. And so I started out like my own blend. So I do like for my sessions, as you'll know, they're an hour and a half. And then for the first hour, they are just therapy. So really just letting you feel heard and safe and feeling seen and comfortable, and a lot of awareness building, like who am I, what's going on here, drawing out patterns. And then the last half an hour is a little bit more goals and coaching focused, where it's like, how can we take a step forward today? What's a habit that I can work on that'll move me forward in my life? So it's an hour and a half, and it's pretty intense. You'll probably need a nap after, but like I think it's really effective. It's an effective blend that I wish I saw more of in this industry, but unfortunately it's just like a lot of underqualified people talking a lot of rubbish. But I just want to know that people are getting the right help, even if it's not me.
I think too, I really resonate with what you said about like just being heard and like, just being able to like tell someone your deepest, darkest thoughts to get them off your chest, because that's what makes me feel better. And having like, like I say this to my husband all the time, I don't need you to fix it, like, because he'll come at me with all the solutions. And I'm like, no, I don't need any solutions. I just need to express myself,
Yeah.
Healing. Yeah. So that's really, beautiful, I think, with your approach to it and to therapy. And I feel like I've never worked with any other therapists, so I don't know that if that's what they do. But I think it's a beautiful way to do it,
It is. It's very, I'm very therapy focused, so it's more effective, research based.
Yeah. And soulful too, like, it's not like you're like, just for example, I went to the naturopath yesterday and she was a bit soulful, but then she started talking a lot about science and stuff. And for me, it's like, I might as well leave, because it doesn't come down. Like, I don't know. And she's talking about my brain connecting to this and that. And I was like, started thinking about something else. And yeah, so I feel like that it needs to have that balance of like, you know all that, but delivering it in like a soulful way, or knowing your clients, I guess, what is going to work for them, because some people are very science based, like they would like that.
It's hard. It's really, like, just personally in my business, I'll tell you guys, it's really difficult to get it right. I never feel like, I'm very like confident and embodied person, but I obviously still have my struggles. And a sore point for me is like, am I doing enough? Like, am I valid enough? Am I qualified enough? And like, I'm worried about what my psychologist friends think, and then I'm worried about what my hippie friend thinks, and then I'm worried about the PACFA psychologist counselors board of Australia thinks of me, which isn't good. Like, they all have opinions, and it's really difficult to find what's right. But at the end of the day, what's most important is what's ethical for the client and like what works. And it takes a few, like, maybe like a year of figuring it out, but I feel like I'm in a really good spot.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I think like in any business or whatever, there's always like, you see how other people do it, or you worry, like in any, we're all women here, so we all like worry about what people think. And I think, can we touch on that a little bit? Do you have still a bit of time?
Yeah, absolutely. How long have we got? We've got 7 minutes ish left. So that's fine.
Well, I mean, as long as you're all right, you don't need to, rush off to bed or something. But yeah, like, I feel like that's a huge thing for us as women, like caring so much about what people think, and that comes back to sex as well. Like caring what people think about you talking about it or whatever. Do you have any like advice on how we can just stop caring about what people think? Or is it,
I think our biggest critics are ourselves, and we are a mirror of ourselves. So, sorry, our outer world is a mirror of our inner world. So when we are like, I'm really worried about what other people think, it's only because we value that particular opinion in the first place. And where, again, this comes back full circle to what I started with, and that is we're outsourcing our integrity to other people. And I really think it is not comfortable. I really struggle. I hit post on some very difficult podcast episodes recently about like anal sex and giving better head and being a lesbian and like all these other like really like taboo topics, and I really struggled with that, and it just told me like, you know, where I'm at personally, like where I'm currently like capping at my comfort zone, and it's just interesting for me to develop a bit of awareness around that. But there will always be something to be uncomfortable about based on where you're growing. Like there will always be a layer of discomfort. It's about changing your relationship to the discomfort itself. The discomfort will always be there, and it doesn't get easier. It just changes every time you change. You know, it also grows with you in ratio almost. And when you accept that it will always be there and there will be always people that you care about and their opinions and stuff, it actually deactivates the fear, and you can still feel the fear but not be afraid of it. Like you can still be worried about what someone thinks but not be limited by it or so afraid that you don't act because of it. So it's just about having that gentle and compassionate self-awareness. It's very empowering and it changes a lot.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Does anyone, we might open up for some questions if anyone has any questions, or even if you want to type it or anything like that. So have a little think if you do.
And if you don't think of it now, you can always just message me on Instagram later. I'll answer it tonight if you want to do it privately as well.
Yeah, of course. But I want to finish off by asking you, because like I said earlier, like I'm coming back to my business name and like my original, what I feel like my purpose and my sharing was for. My business name was Variety for Life, and it's all about balance and having that variety. So I think we probably covered it, but I feel like it's a really big thing for people that don't have balance. So do you have any specific advice on like, creating that balance in your life and bringing variety to all the areas?
Yeah, like you'll know that one of my favorite topics is cycles and cycle awareness and cycle mapping. I actually wrote a book about it. So if you want more info on that, that's also in the shop. But cycle mapping and like being aware of inner seasons is how I relate to the concept of variety. And that is going back to kind of what I was saying about masculine and feminine energy. Like there's a variety, there's usually about 4 energies in the world. And on either end, we have like the summer and winter, or the masculine and the feminine, and basically these divine polarities that are found everywhere in life. And when you learn to relate to that, like use that concept for everything, it's far more mindful, and it's just so much more compassionate to view the world in like seasons. And you know, if you're going through a really difficult time, you're just viewing that as like an inner autumn or an inner winter. And I love that idea about variety though. Like it just, I wish, you know, when we see the media, like even models that are quite vulnerable and like they share like honest things and like, you know, cellulite and stuff, they're very consistent. Like Instagram is it's only showing us one side of everyone. And I'm the same. It's really difficult for me to show all sides of me. You know, we're all difficult. We're all bad at that. But it's difficult when so much of our opinion about what is considered normal is the media and social media, because it's only giving us one consistent image. And we're never seeing that person change, even when they're vulnerable and they're stuff. Like it never wavers. We don't see they're ugly, that we don't see they're wild, we don't see their arguments with their husband, we don't see them sitting on the toilet, do we? Like we never see variety. And we have to remember that's our nature, and we have to remind ourselves of that, because the world won't tell you.
I love that answer. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I asked you that.
Yes.
Cool. Well, so where can we connect with you if someone wants to, like I've got the affiliate link for your shop, but if someone wants to reach out to you for coaching, therapy, just Instagram or?
Yeah, just DM me. I'm super like relaxed about that kind of stuff. There's no special form or anything. Even if you just want to meet me, guys, I'd love to meet you all. Just like say hello and let me know if you need like a book recommendation or whatever. Let's just have a chat. I love talking to people. So get it off Instagram and into real life, you know? Like lately you've just been calling like people that have been messaging me throughout the year saying like, oh, you've really helped me and stuff. I've been just scheduling calls with them just to meet them and get off Instagram, because so much of what people think of me is just like a tile or a grid. And I'm like, no, I want you to hear my voice. I want you to hear me like be vulnerable and honest and have a chat and help you. So if you guys want me to have a chat with you, let me know. I just love to talk to you.
Yeah. That's so
absolutely
cool.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so lovely.
Oh, thank you for being here and being so open and honest and just sharing your wisdom and like, I just think that it's going to be really valuable for everyone. And please, reach out to Kathryn, guys, if you need to. And, it doesn't have to be sex or relationships like we've talked about tonight. But thank you so much. If no one has any questions, then we'll leave it there.
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'll just put it all out there anyway. So this is more of a like, this is really being vulnerable. So I'm pretty like, I guess, curious in sexual things, as in like I really want to delve into like the role play type of thing and everything like that, and just kind of reconnecting with my husband without having sex and stuff like that. And I was just wondering if you could give us some tips on like, I guess, being more relaxed about it and just introducing things at a comfortable way to do that, if that makes sense.
Well, like, I mean, I know you're probably like, oh, ask the expert, but so much of what you've already said is like what I would say too, which is take it really slow. So like actually define what those steps look like. If the if you want to do role play, then the first step is the conversation. Maybe the second step is like visiting a role play like shop or a sex shop to look at outfits or whatever, with no obligation to use them, and just like leave them in the corner of the bedroom so that you both get used to it, like sitting there and just taking it really slow. Always, like seriously, slow is the number one tip. If anyone asks me anything, slow. That's what I'll say. Yeah. And then, I mean, it's a deeper topic to talk about how to talk about that, but episode number 21 of the podcast covers this, I think. Number 21. So if you want to listen to how I can communicate, listen to episode 21.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Also, and don't judge yourself. Sorry. I was just saying don't judge yourself. So the way to make it easier, sorry, just 1 second. I'm coming. Yes, I'm coming. Sorry. Got the kids. Just making it easier on yourself is to not judge yourself and not, sometimes we are our own worst enemy, and it's really important to deactivate that inner critic, which will probably still talk, but just be aware of what it's saying and just acknowledge that it's like, it's not that, you're not always right. Like speaking back to your ego and being like, actually, you're not always right. So that kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks, Renee. Cool. Okay. Well, we'll leave it there. If anyone does have more
questions,
just message.
Sorry. I've got my cousins over and they're all like looking at me through the window and I'm like, oh my God, leave me alone, please. It's a bunch of 5-year-olds looking at me.
All right. Well, we will let you go. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Thank you. I've had so much fun. You're all so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Have a good night. See ya.